I love to do my job, and you know, other people go to work and they don't enjoy it. I just love to go to work every day.
It's different all the time. There's never 2 days that are exactly the same.
Work is really play, and play is work.
You're not told what the problem is. You have to figure out what the problem is, and then you have to figure out a model to deal with the problem.
That's what I do, is I design games, but my official title is executive producer, and that's so all of the breadheads and investors can go, yeah, he's an important guy. He's not like this goofy guy in the corner who sits and thinks of games all day. That's in fact what I do, so that's kind of my job.
Being a game designer is fun. Do I need to expand on that?
Where do I work? Well, the company I work for is Game Refuge Incorporated, which, if you go by the name, sounds like it should be a little shack out in the woods somewhere, which is pretty much what it is. When we created the company, we wanted to let all the employees work as close to their homes as they wanted to, or in their homes for that matter.
Being able to work at home makes it all possible. I mean, you can't just say, okay, I'm going to do this, because it's all, boom, something pops in your head as far as how to do things. And that can happen at any time. I mean, sometimes you'll work until the next day and not go to bed, and other times you'll work 1 hour that day.
So I'm just a short walk from my house. I can come running out here whenever the creative muse strikes, or go dash back to the house and play with the kids or harass the wife, you know, whenever I'm in desperate need of a reality check. This office is where most of the physical part of game development takes place. This is where the work that people can point to anyway takes place. The mental side of what I do, that happens anywhere.
You know, you're always on. I think if you're a creative person or a designer, you're always on, regardless of what you do or where you're at.
How did you get started?
I actually sort of backed into it. I went to Southern Illinois University, majored in film production. After I got out of there, I spent about 1.5 years knocking around sort of as a roving cartoonist, doing daily advertisements for a few local taverns. And I answered an ad one day for the Bally Midway Company.
He had no money. He had nothing. I mean, he basically came in with, you know, these radio clothes in his portfolio, and he had a car in which you know, he had a dryer vent hose hooked up to the outside of the car, and when he'd get in the car, he'd put the hose with a rubber band around his head, and he'd drive down the street like this because the car had an exhaust leak.
Still, they said they were willing to pay me real money, which was an improvement over the free beer and popcorn arrangement I had been working in previously.
And Brian said to me, he goes, I won't take a dime less than $300 a month. And here we are, this big game company, and I thought, yeah, we could do better than that.
And turned out they wanted me to do art for video games. And at the time, that wasn't terribly exciting because the art level, quality of art was like at the Pac-Man level.
He had a head full of stuff. I mean, he had a head full of ideas. And all of his work was just screaming that it was, you know, it was just looking to explode. I mean, it was just really looking to explode. And I looked at the stuff, and the stuff was awesome. And, you know, he was exactly what the business needs. You know, I mean, guys like him are really what make this thing go round.
I got a phone call. They said, we want you to be a video artist. We're going to pay you money, regular paycheck, 40 hours a week, pension plan, profit sharing, the whole 9 yards. And I remember thinking as I hung up the phone, you know, this is it. Childhood is officially over. I've got a real job. I was wrong.
Actually, I think the best thing about graduate school is the immense amount of time that students have to either do their work or goof off in a totally unsupervised setting. So what I did more often than not was play a lot of games. And I started to study this industry and became very fascinated with the industry. So I ended up spending more time studying the industry than working on my dissertation. I just decided one day to go for it. I wasn't interested in being a scientist. I wanted to do something that was really fun and rewarding, and I just went for it.
I used to be a copywriter in an ad agency, and from that I got into marketing, and I marketed the software for a small game company. From then, I realized I learned a lot about what the designers were doing, and it's an awful lot of writing and awful lot of planning and attention to detail, and I said, I can do that.
I was lucky kind of when I was starting out that nobody knew anything about video games. The business was like 3 years old, so basically they were just hiring any young kid on the street who could bullshit his way into a job. You know, I was 20 at the time, and it was like I told them I knew how to program, they hired me.
So you didn't start out to be a game designer?
Game design is pretty much a secondary discipline. It's something you become after you've been part of the process for a while. Companies generally don't hire anybody off the street as a game designer. Obviously, if they've never designed a game before, very few companies would be willing to make the financial leap of faith necessary to give you the big paycheck and all that responsibility.
I sort of did time in the mechanical engineering department for about 3 years. I designed cabinets and controls and stuff, and with every time I had an opportunity to get near a management guy, I bothered him with a storyboard for a game idea.
They will, however, give you a chance to become a programmer, an artist, an animator, a technician, a secretary, a janitor, and then you've got an opportunity to prove yourself, as it were, and become a game designer. Once you know the process, once you're in the door, it's not that far to go to actually become a game designer.
We kept bugging them, and they gave us a shot at it. And they found out that we really could design games.
I think most game designers start out as game players, and you play all the games, and eventually you kind of get sick of the games, and you go, gee, why didn't they do this, or why didn't they do that? And you really want to design a game that's better, and that's kind of what drives you to do it. You just want to make a better game for you to play, and it turns out, if you're lucky, a lot of other people think that's cool too. And you basically got to start, it's kind of like Hollywood, you start in the mail room and you work your way out. So be prepared to start at the bottom of the barrel, and and through hard work and dedication, and if you love it enough, you will succeed.
Where do you get your ideas?
Ideas are really the easy part.
Looking for inspiration? Then come to Ralph's Idea Barn. Whether you're looking for practical, whimsical, inspired, or insipid, we've got thousands of ideas to choose from. Suffering from mental block? Snap out of it! One visit to our incredibly overstocked idea warehouse and you can kiss your slump goodbye. And remember, those of you unconcerned with originality can save even more, since all of our knockoffs, rip-offs, and painfully obvious ideas are just a dime a dozen every day.
Ralph's Idea Barn is located just a short stretch of the imagination down the Think It Through way at the Bazaar Notion Cutoff.
We get letters every day of people saying, why don't you do this type of game, why don't you do this type of game, and they'll write a letter and then send it in, and I guess they're of the impression that there's a shortage of ideas. When that's couldn't be further from the truth. We have countless ideas flying through our heads, but it takes so much work to actually make those ideas real.
The tricky part is taking an idea and turning it into a viable game design.
What's the difference between a game idea and a game design?
An idea is just an idea. A design is a blueprint for getting something done.
The difference difference between a game design and a game idea. You could look at what's happening behind me and say, hey, wow, look, we got a game design. But there's hundreds of questions that have to be answered before you have a design. And ideas are a dime a dozen. Designs are tough.
To put it another way, a game idea invites questions while a game design answers questions.
How do you know what questions to ask?
You need to envision yourself playing the game and then go through all parts of that game in your mind, and you'll say, okay, when I get to this situation, what happened? And you better have an answer for it.
Figuring out in advance where the problems lie and the best way to do things and figuring out what questions to ask is pretty much part and parcel what being a good game designer is all about.
And that's basically, on the ghost, we have to figure out what to do for a ghost. What does an invisible car look like?
I think if anyone doesn't make a mistake, they're not trying, or they're certainly not trying anything new. Anytime you step over a boundary, you take a new path, you know, there's always that potential that, well, you know, it might not come out quite the way you expect. So as much as possible, I like to think that I try and take new strides each time I do a project, but there's always the risk that that the marketplace will say, you know.
The fact that no one ever really does come up with all the answers in advance is what makes the process so interesting.
Now what's the plan?
The exact moment that a game designer decides that a concept has what it takes to become a video game might be pretty hard to pinpoint, but that instant could be considered the start of the game development process.
We were just talking in general. He was working on his previous game, and I was working on my previous game, and we were saying, wouldn't it be cool to do a video game with really big images and a karate type game, and you know, and fighting and all that stuff. And that was kind of like a conversation right there. Was kind of like the you know, the birth of the game at that point.
A game idea can come from anywhere. Sometimes they're just handed to you.
Well, a lot of times clients will actually have an idea before they approach us.
And then we get to chip in our ideas, we get to flesh out the ideas.
And just make the most of the game, make it as fun as we possibly can for the player.
Fortunately for us at this company, we have the luxury of the designers dictating things more than the company saying, all right, you guys are going to do this type of game now. More often than not, if the designer says, gee, I would like to see this kind of game, I would enjoy playing this type of game.
Often we'll have brainstorms that last half a day that are just blue sky brainstorming sessions on what would be cool, what would be fun, what people want to play.
But overall, the vast majority of original ideas that become video games crop up during the informal conversations between friends and coworkers. Bouncing ideas off of someone whose judgment you trust is the most simple, straightforward way of finding out whether or not that idea has any merit.
Sideways, and she's laying on her back, and I've got this vial of vinegar, and it was pretty vile. I poured it on her face, and I guess the shock of it hitting your face, and well, you can see it later, frame by frame, it just went right up.
I trust in what he has to say, and I think he has a lot of trust and faith in what I have to say, and we are very much different. I mean, our personalities, what we like and what we don't like, are so far apart, and that's probably what makes us a good team. Because, you know, I'll think one way, he'll think another way, and if we can't get the other person to agree, we're probably both wrong. And I think that's one thing that has been our success together anyhow is, hey, if I can convince the other person that this is the best way to do it, I'm probably right. If you can't, you probably got to rethink it.
Whether you're an independent developer or a designer for a huge corporation, at some point you're going to have to put your design down on paper. A write-up or game design proposal is the most straightforward way of conveying your idea to a lot of other people, especially to those who are controlling the purse strings. Some companies look for game scripts to be massive, detailed volumes, complete with storyboards and even animated demos. Other companies get nervous if it takes more than a page or two to get your idea across. So the idea, of course, is that, here's a trading card pack, it's going to open, you'll get whoever happens to be in the game, all right? Now, whether you're doing it on a word processor or a cocktail napkin, doing a write-up is invaluable. It helps you organize your thoughts, plan your strategies, and it helps you spot those areas that may give you trouble later on. This is the phase where the game takes shape, when all the people connected with the game provide the art, music, software, and in some cases hardware necessary to turn the concept into something real.
We are in business here.
This might be a good time to point out that game design is seldom, if ever, a one-man show.
How does it know where the connection is at? That I don't know.
It's become much more complex than it was in the early 80s, in that now we are writing entire scripts, we are designing costumes for live actors as opposed to just little 16-pixel characters, so that it's become more of an overall production. And with all the sound people that you've talked to and other designers, you just see how many disciplines go into making one game, and it isn't any longer just one or two people. It's much more of a team effort now.
A basic development team might consist of a game programmer, a graphic artist, and a sound programmer. A more ambitious product might have several artists and programmers working on it, and depending on the type of game that's being developed and the company that's producing it, the team might also include a producer, a mechanical designer, a couple of hardware technicians, a support group, a marketing group, play testers, etc., etc.
I think the trick is going to be figuring out the DPMI, which are the DOS memory management functions, how they would map to us directly poking the hardware here.
Yeah.
I think that's the path of least resistance.
Yeah, if it was DOS, I would follow that.
That's kind of what I was looking at.
Yeah.
The programmers glue everything together. So the artists generate, on our specific project here, the artists generated all the movies. We see all the interactive parts. They built the models for the figures. They painted them, made the textures on them. We had an outside designer who generated sounds. And as the programmers, we brought all the parts together and turned it into a game, something that's interactive, rather than just like a videotape or a movie of everything. We program the computers, because that ultimately is a computer. It's actually pretty similar to this one. And we make the interactivity. That's it, connected.
It works.
It's a lie. That didn't suck. Okay. So I think like a programmer. I just do. I did math and science in high school. I did engineering in college. So I have a whole language and mindset that I sometimes assume everyone has. And so when I sat down with some guys who had a formal art education, we do not speak the same language.
When Han Solo says, "Then I'll see you in hell," that means they have some concept of religion.
That's deep, Sean.
They're in a galaxy far, far away.
Okay, so these are internally indexed then. We're doing this as an offset in the CAR.
Yes.
You take the
This is offset of
CAR base and add
Add
whatever
this
offset
offset.
we want to it. So offset 0.
So we poke the-
So we poke the CAR.
Where's your programming buddy? This thing all of a sudden it's broke.
What?
Yeah, well,
What,
yeah,
just
I'll tell you-
now?
I'll
You're broke.
Yeah, I'll tell you what happened.
So we poke the CAR with 0 plus the base.
Yeah, whatever the base is.
Whatever
with
the base
device
is.
At 0.
And that base is going to be slot 1 base, something like that.
Slot 1 or slot 2, slot 3, any device.
Okay.
Didn't come up?
Nothing does. It gets on its little cursor, then just goes forever.
A video game artist is, I guess it's just like any other artist, except you get to do a lot of things. It's the best job I ever had. If people think that playing games is all we do pretty much all day long and having fun, you know, as opposed to going to like an office and sitting in a cubicle or whatever. They're absolutely right. That's what it feels like. Working at a game company is a lot of fun. It's like I get to do modeling, I get to do the animation, I get to make some design decisions. You get to play test, which is always, you know, that's what everybody thinks that you wind up doing, is playing games all the time.
And that's the big misconception that that most people have. They say, what a great opportunity. You get to go to work and play games all day. And that is not remotely what I do. Terribly tedious things that we sometimes take for granted, like this thing didn't know how to talk to a hard drive when we started. Geez, every computer I've had knew how to access its hard drive, so I had to kind of wallow around in the guts of that and teach it a few low-level tricks that I thought it would know already.
Yeah, we're not geeky enough. We have to have goofy erasers, you know. Chicks dig this, by the way. Show them Darth Maul eraser. That's what I do by the window here. Hey, baby, check it out.
Being able to run the video display on it, being able to read inputs from the guns, since it's a gun game, being able to read coins when people drop coins in it, being able to output sound.
Sound does two things in a game. One is it creates a mood of either excitement or tension or humor or whatever. So that's very important. The other thing it does, very important, is it informs. It lets the player know that he's done something. A good example of this is if anybody plays fighting games, try playing a fighting game with the sound turned completely off, where you can't hear whether or not you've actually hit the other person. It's impossible to play.
This is for the screaming forest. That's a screaming tree right there. And this sort of sets up the mood, and then we can fire off. You know, the programmer gets the list of sounds from me, and he fires off all the sounds to try to create the illusion that, you know, this is all sort of happening in reality, which of course it isn't.
In the past, entertainment's always been sort of linear. The person sets out what it is going to be done, and somebody sits back and is entertained. And now, with people becoming part of the entertainment, there are a lot of new challenges you have to deal with, like how do you create tension in the background score of a video game when you're not really sure whether the person is going to open the door that has the monster behind it or the green pastures. So you don't know from moment to moment what's really going to happen. So you have to sort of find these little tricks and things you do to create the moods that you want, even though you're not sure what mood you're trying to create yet.
And then we have a lot of hit, kick, punch sound effects, stabs, all sorts of gory stuff. And then the accompanying speech, you know, people yelling, attacking, getting hit, getting killed. And then there's a lot of very miscellaneous sound effects, all the weapon sounds, things going across the screen. For example, Kitana, she throws a fan that goes flying. Scorpion, he's got a whole bunch of other things. His rope throw hits you in the neck, really hurts, and then he tells you, "Come here!" And then he can do what he will with you.
It's an informative element, so it's not just wallpaper on the background. In some cases, it's really integral to what's going on.
It's connecting it to an arcade-style monitor, connecting it to an arcade cabinet. There's certain standardized connections in there.
Like a two-polygon, you got it back, right? Two triangles.
Well, we get this. It's just that when it's supposed to go to the C drive.
Well, the only way that we found to convert that to triangles is if we actually build it in a triangular mode to begin with.
Now, if you're asking yourself, where's the game designer? The answer is he's already here. All of the members of a development team will usually be involved with game design to some extent. But for all practical purposes, a game's designer is simply the team member with the clearest vision of the final product. More often than not, the designer is someone directly responsible for the day-to-day development of the project, such as a programmer or graphic artist. And since different game designers have different areas of expertise, It's not uncommon for a project to have 2 or more designers working as a team.
Game designer is basically the visionary. He's the guy that, when the days get really long and everybody's really upset and you're working around the clock and everything's going wrong, he's the guy that has to have the vision to lead this team. He leads the team. He's the equivalent of probably a director for a movie. He's the guy that says, I think this is the way we ought to do this. I think this is the way it ought to look. I think this is the feel that you want. He orchestrates this relationship between the game and the player.
So you really have to be a leader. You have to, and typically you have to be the hardest worker, just to motivate people to make the vision a reality.
Yeah, you might have been initialized there. I'm not sure.
You want to check, guys?
Yeah, let's get somebody to jump out the window.
Yeah, write that down. Can't follow.
Well, there's a thing that he's on the right edge of the screen, falling in water.
Yeah.
To the right, and it won't fall in. It puts him back out.
He turns him.
There's
draw.
There's water here.
Okay.
The guy's right here. He pushes this way, and it puts him back. He goes to start falling in, and it pushes him back out. He won't let him fall in.
So what's got to happen here is he's got to make sure that the building he's getting has the same number of floors.
Test in the punch part that says if it's higher than just ignore.
In here for the punch behind?
No, in punch mid, damage middle. That's what I put it punch it.
Yeah, but on his, when he's calling it here, if he's punching another one, he's got to make sure the building on, because otherwise he's going to get you in the middle of nowhere. He's got to check on that to make sure that whatever floor he's trying to do, that the building he's checking the adjacent one has the same number of floors.
Okay, well I put a check on my side.
Yeah, but
that's fine. You put a check
by
on
the
both
time it gets
sides.
to your side, he's already given you bogus information. So it might not be pointing at anything that would work for yours. Anytime they did a thing like that, it would die there because of that. He was pointing at something that didn't exist when he called you damn middle. So that's a known guaranteed. So I can fix that one, and I'm going to retry it here then again. And I should also fix the other part of it too while I'm there. Instead of checking every building and the punch back, you only got to check the building before and after because we go in row.
Are you capable of efficient sizing code at this time?
We done, Chief.
Well, let's see, it's about 10 in the morning on Friday, November 22nd, and we're driving the finished code for Rampage World Tour into Bally Midway Williams. We're happy to say we made our deadline, and knock wood, it appears to be bug-free and ready for test.
this stage of the game, the product is nearly finished. Production dates are just around the corner. But it's in these last few critical weeks that some of the most important work in the whole game development process will take place. Because it's during these field tests that the designers get a chance, often for the first time, to see what the players' reactions are to the game and tweak the game accordingly.
The testing process really starts internally. And once we have a game near completion, we like to have our better players within our company play the game. And that starts with the guy on the dock, and it ends with the top engineers.
When I try to test a game that I designed on programming, I try to pretend I don't know how the game works. So I can test for all these different things. But no matter how hard I try to pretend I don't know what's going on, I do. And there's no way I can test everything, every way a player is going to react, everything he's going to do. And without adequate testing, there will be things that happen in the game that I would have never seen without it.
Pretty good, dude. My arm's tired.
Make a note of that.
Player's arm is tired. Which arm do you feel the most burning in? Right?
Does it hurt when I do this?
You feel a carpal tunnel setting in?
Sorry.
That was something I liked, though, was that the things coming towards you, that she was blue, I was red,
Yeah.
and that they were definitely green and purple stuff coming towards us, so that we could, it gave you an idea of relativity and how you could aim and that sort of thing. So I liked that a lot.
Okay. You mean that you like the fact that the green shots?
That's I think the key to testing. It gives you some feedback, because otherwise you're in your office, you're in the lab, and you're doing these different things. You're trying this and trying that, and you go by what the people around you say in terms of feedback. But that's not exactly the feedback that you would get from the general public, for example, because most of the people around have been in the industry for a while. They've seen, many different games, and maybe I don't want to say jaded, but they may be jaded,
Well, I had about $3 to $4, and I took care of most of them. The shots were going everywhere. Tim seems to think he knows what it is, so I just skipped it for now. But there's some serious funkiness going on there, which I don't understand.
You come out with this vision, you have this vision in your head of what the player's going to do when he sees something, and guess what? He doesn't do it that way. He does it a different way. And maybe he's not enjoying something that you thought he was really gonna like, and now it's late in the project, and you've got to scramble for what do I do? How do I get how do I get the player to really like this thing that in my head plays great?
You're a big person if you can pull the plug and say, hey, you know what, I spent a lot of money to get it to this point, but it's just not going to work.
Those are tough times. That's the part that nobody sees.
Or you take the time and say, hey, you know what, we should go from an 8 meg to 16 meg because this is what we're going to add to it, because in testing we realize that there's not enough in this one level.
If it's in the cache box, we can do anything we want. If it's not in the cache box, we failed.
We've had extremes of, like, when we first tested the first Mortal Kombat game, we had kids go there and just see the game and play. This is like a Friday night. We're testing it for the weekend. And John and I are there all weekend long, just watching kids play it. And we see some kid get there, in the early evening and stay there till the place closes. And then get there the next morning to play this game. And then stay there all day long until they close. And then get there Sunday morning and play, and just, to the point where they've changed their entire life schedule to play this game. And that, that's kind of the way we were when we were kids. You'd get hooked on this game, and that's all you really think about.
What about the business side of the business?
I don't know if I'm the right person to ask about business stuff. Jeff and I pretty much
take things as they come.
Yeah, what it was is I said, if you want me to continue working, you're going to give me the same money you would have done to go to California. Because to go to California, first of all, they're going to give us a big bonus for moving expenses. Then they're going to give us raises to match it. I said, I want all that money you're going to give me to go. And Brian wanted to working at home at least part-time. So to keep us both, they gave us both of it. And I was like, oh, cool, we'll stay.
On the one hand, we're doing okay. This is the third office I think we've been in since you started filming. Third time we've expanded.
Fine. Slight reorganization, internal, no problem. Nobody's gonna get canned. Nobody's been fired. Everything will be fine. How does it come out? Please remain calm.
Now, we missed the stud completely here, so this is going to rip out of the wall and injure an employee. Fortunately, I have workman's comp. That's one of the many business sort of things you have to worry about. The fun part, we've got an office pool started to see who it's actually going to injure and how long their hospital stay will be. I think we probably finished 12 projects and hired 25 people. Before we get started, little news flash, maybe to some of you. We received an anonymous fax a couple days ago, a newspaper article that indicated that a major arcade company with whom we were doing business closed its doors 2 weeks ago and didn't bother to tell us about it. So we were just made aware of that a couple days ago. We are here today to talk about our new projects, which we have begun for a different major arcade manufacturer here in the Midwest. On the other hand, I think if we were better businessmen, we probably could have retired by now.
We all want to make money along the way, and that goes for each segment of the industry. But it's an entertainment business, and you make a good product that's entertaining, the rest comes naturally.
I don't think realistically there's any way that the interactive industry can fail. I think that the tough choice is going to be between which direction it's going to go.
It's an exciting industry, and we are at the very beginning of a huge growth. The future of this industry is huge.
And I was given an analogy once, but somebody said, we're at the stage now where film was when it was just invented. And you had a whole bunch of people saying it's going to be used for like doing classical films, and a whole bunch of other people saying no, what you can do is you can like do little frames, and like if you flick them through, look, they move, you know. And you had a whole bunch of people going, no, this camera I can just take anywhere, and I can give people the news, you know, it'll be great. And I think it's just going to be everything.
As a game designer, you look past the corporate politics and the media hype, because it's not about the latest technology. It's not about chasing a marketing trend.
Well, I see that everybody's jumping at technology right now, which is extreme, you know. But, you know, there's no gameplay. And I see it all over the place. There's too few gameplay in all those games out. So basically, I think it's the idea that makes a game and not the technology.
People have all this flashy technology, and they think that that's going to be the thing that's, you know, sells games. And, you know, it really doesn't. What sells games is good gameplay and what makes a game fun. Without that, then, you know, you don't have anything.
It's about knowing who your customer is and making them smile.
I have essentially two customers. I have the guy that buys the machine from us to operate it and make money from it, and the guy who's actually putting money in it to enjoy it.
The game can be really fun and kids can love it, but if they can master it in a week and they can spend an hour in one quarter, the game's not going to be profitable.
And I have to walk a very fine line between satisfying both of their needs. The guy who operates the machine doesn't care how fun it is, he only cares how much money does it make. The guy that plays the machine doesn't care how much money it makes. All he cares about is how much fun can I have.
It's a lot of fun! Yeah, it's pretty cool. Great game!
The most important aspect of good gameplay is making the player feel as though he messed up. Asteroids is a perfect example. You have a rock that's coming at you. Every time you died in Asteroids, you felt, hey, you know, if I just spun around and, you know, shot a couple of bullets off, I could have avoided that.
Now, having said that, corporate politics and media hype notwithstanding, there's nothing I'd rather do than go to a trade show.
I love getting up in the morning. I think I have the best job in the world. In fact, I feel sorry for people who don't have a job that they love passionately, that they enjoy so much, that work is really play and play is work. That sounds goofy, but that's really the way I look at it. Play for a living. My wife gets a little upset that I'm always doing research. I'm back there playing a computer game, and that's what, if I can make money at doing what I was going to do anyway, more power to me.
I got all these stresses on me. I've got deadlines that are unbearable, but then I come to the show and I realize just what a great industry I'm in, and I realize that this beats the hell out of having to go to a job where I have to wear pantyhose.
There's no doubt about it. It's where you go, you play games all day, you schmooze with cronies you've worked with in the past. But beneath all the button pushing and characters and costumes, it's a multi-million-dollar business, and most of the people here are businessmen. They are making deals, they are more concerned with the dollars behind the games than what's going on screen. As a business person, I have to do a certain amount of business schmoozing and handshaking and card exchanging, but that's not why I come. To me, it's important because I like to travel around the floor, scour the floor, and make sure nothing I'm working on has already been pushed out by somebody else before I'm done with it. So I can always breathe a sigh of relief for another 6 months when I get done with a trade show, because I didn't see anything too close to what I'm doing.
What advice would you give to someone who wanted to be a game designer?
First thing I tell anybody that's in this, first of all, get your education.
Having a master's degree in computing won't help you. So, just as a warning, don't bother wasting 6 years of your life if that's what you want to do.
I encourage everyone to go to college, if for no other reason than to simply prolong childhood.
With a master's degree in computing, you're going to get a pretty good job, so maybe it's a good thing to do anyway, but it won't help you being a game designer.
4 years of fooling around while you're trying to figure things out,
is exactly the kind of experience you need to do a job like this.
You need to be able to think outside of the books as well, and I think that's one thing a lot of people overlook.
The best thing you can do if you want to design games is know games, and there's no other substitute for it.
Best asset you can have is common sense and creativity. There's a lot of people who are in this industry that are just so much smarter than me. Book smarts, it's not funny. But they don't have the common sense, they don't have the creativity, they can't put it together.
There are a million ways to get into the business. You have to follow the magazines, you have to follow the business, you have to know what state of the art is, you have to know what a good game is, what games fail. You have to love video games.
It's still really hard to break into the business because you need a lucky break.
It's business as well as creativity. I think if you've got all that stuff wrapped together, somebody's going to recognize you eventually.
I know nobody's going to want to hear this, but playing games, loving games, isn't going to make you a game designer any more than watching movies will make you a movie star. You have to be a responsible, hard-working, pragmatic problem solver. Otherwise, the dreams never amount to anything more than just dreams.
There's a lot of hard work, and you've got to be willing to put in the hours, to have such a love for it that you put that before, the fact that you wanted to see the X-Files on Friday night, and instead you're out there programming.
If your idea of having fun is wrestling with problems long into the night on the off chance that someday you might bring a smile to the face of a total stranger, then this is the job for you.
I think if you really like it, you should write a little demo, and if not a whole game. And if it's a good product, then you'll catch people's attention.
Go build something. If you want to be a level designer, go build a level for, one of the first-person shooter games. There's great tools for that. If you want to be a programmer, program a mod for it. If you want to be an artist, reskin a model or build a new model, or build a texture set for building a level.
Write down your ideas. Get those ideas down on paper, flesh them out, and approach companies with your game designs, and just pound on doors until somebody listens to you, till you get in. It requires persistence. Anything you can do to get your foot in the door, once you're in, the sky's the limit as to where you can go.
So you've really got to sacrifice a lot of things if you want to succeed, and you have to be prepared to do that. If you're not, then you're not going to make it.
Well, I don't think you should get too hung up on finding or mapping out a career path. What worked for somebody else isn't necessarily going to work for you. I think it's more important that you trust your own instincts. I think it's important that you follow your heart and have fun along the way, because eventually, if you've got what it takes to be a game designer, you're going to figure something out, because figuring things out is what a game designer does.
What's the best thing about your job?
I've been doing this for over 20 years now, and it still feels most days like it's too good to be true.
The neatest thing about my job to me is the fact that I can go to most arcades, I can go to any store, and I can see something that I've done. I can watch kids play it, and I think that is just tremendous.
We're in a box, and that's the most fun thing, is getting a product on the shelf. It's not the money that's involved. It's actually letting people play my game and have a good time, and that's just, you couldn't ask for a bigger high than that.
Dress code. I can wear shorts and a t-shirt any day. I could probably walk around barefoot if I felt like it, but this is only my second month here, so we'll give it another month, and then I'll start walking around barefoot.
And probably the best thing is seeing reactions of kids in terms of getting excited over something that you've done. We've worked countless hours on these games, pulling all-nighters and working round the clock and just beating ourselves to death. And then we'll put it in location, and we see kids freaking out and giving each other's high fives and stuff like that, and just getting really excited over something that you came up with. That's probably the best. That makes all the work and all the the sleepless nights and everything worth it.
Bringing things to life. I totally enjoy that. It's just something, I mean, anything from, you know, little mechanical character to a person, you know, when you breathe life into it, you almost get this feeling of God. But you're not God, but you get this feeling of it.
My wife hates my job because she actually works for a living and I play around, so I guess my college education has paid off and I got no complaints. And I'm making all the kids happy.
In general, it's just the fun aspect of it. It's fun. We're trying to make things that are fun for other people to enjoy. We're trying to have fun while we're doing it. And a lot of times it seems that if you don't have fun during the process of making, if you don't find the fun inherent in the project, then it's not going to be a fun project. So it's just basically overall enjoyment, entertainment, and you know, the fun.
Well, at the end of the day, we're making games, so that's fun. That's really, it's really fun.